Hi, boys and girls. I hope you're ready. We're going to do another few chapters of Because of Mr. Terup. I hope you're enjoying it just as much as Mrs. Darcy and I are. So, this chapter is called Luke. So remember, they're out on the soccer field, and go back. Peter just flew his cardboard square and hit Alexia in the behind, and so everyone was laughing. All right, so Luke's point of view. We spread out all over the place, tossing our cardboard squares and counting the blades of grass. Peter, however, was flinging his square like a frisbee, even though Mr. Terup had warned us that it wasn't a toy and to be careful throwing it. Maybe if things had turned out differently that day, they would have turned out differently in the end, too. Wonder what that means. I think what happened on the soccer field just set us up for disaster later on. So Peter was being his typical sneaky self, flinging his square and counting here and there. But as soon as he spotted Alexia bent over her square, he wound up and sailed a beauty in her direction. It was a perfect delivery. Dollar word. That tattooed, another dollar word, her fanny. Ow! She screeched. Like, what the heck? What happened, Mr. Terup? Instantly twisted, dollar word, around. Like someone just hit me right in my tushy with their square, Alexia cried. The old buttocks again, huh? Mr. Terup said. You okay? Yes, Alexia said. Mr. Terup turned and looked out at us. We were laughing our heads off, and I swear I saw him smile as he shook his head at the whole scene. Peter, come over here, please, he said. Why me? Peter complained. Because we all know how much you like the buttocks area, don't we? Classic, Mr. Terup. Instead of blowing up, he was funny about it, but in a serious way. He sat Peter out for the rest of the activity and had a talk with him. Peter didn't pretend to be innocent, but like I said, I think this set us up for later. The whole thing seemed funny. No one got hurt. Peter set out. That was it. Once we finished tossing and counting, we headed inside where we learned how to average all of our data. Then we took our average number and we used it to predict the soccer field total by figuring out how many of our squares would fit inside the soccer field. The number of blades of grass in our soccer field equaled 77,537,314. This isn't an exact answer, of course, but it's an accurate estimate based off all our calculations. Phew! I learned so much doing that project. It wasn't the stupid, easy stuff I was used to getting from my teachers, that's for sure. We were math wizards. Dollar word. All right, our next chapter is by Jessica. Act 3, Scene 1. Remember, Jessica's the new one. So, things weren't going well. I had betrayed Alexia by being nice to Danielle, thinking that this was what Belle Teal would have done, and then Danielle suddenly turned on me. Without warning, I knew Alexia was behind it. I was alone, except for the friends I had in my books, like Belle and Anna. In November, Mr. Terup introduced us to a book that the whole class would be reading, The Summer of the Swans, by Betsy Byers. I had never read this one, or anything by Miss Byers, for that matter. This book won the Newbery Medal back in 1971, Mr. Terup said. He held up the book. It's not full of action like you guys tend to think of action, but it's a beautifully written book that is going to give us an awful lot to think about, learn from, and maybe even change because of. I straightened up. I was excited. Peter moaned. As for Alexia, well, she was somewhere in La La Land. The boys made faces and the girls exchanged glances. Then Mr. Terup went a step further. We're not just going to read this book, he said. We're going to do an activity with it, an ongoing activity, more like an experience. Now even Alexia was listening, back from outer space. What kind of activity? Peter demanded. Not some sort of stupid book project, I hope. I hate those. No project. I don't really like those things either, Mr. Terup said. What did he have in mind, I wondered. You're going to make us dress up as characters, aren't you? Alexia said. Oh, I love doing that. Get real, Peter said. Will you guys be quiet and let Terup finish? Jeffrey said. That worked. No more interruptions. And Mr. Terup continued. I want you guys to think about this book. In the story, there's a boy with Down syndrome. That's a mental disorder named Charlie, and his older sister, not much older than you guys, named Sarah. They have a pretty special relationship. That's what I want all of you to think about." Mr. Trupp stopped for a second. Yet somehow we stayed quiet. He continued, "So what you're going to do is visit our collaborative classroom downstairs over the next few weeks. You'll go in groups in the morning and afternoon and simply spend time with these children doing what it is that they do." "Mr. Trupp," I raised my hand, "what exactly is the collaborative classroom?" Still being relatively new to the school, I didn't know. "It's where the retards go," Peter said. Ugh. Alexia laughed. "I hope you all answered that question a little differently after this experience, Peter." Mr. Trupp said, his tone very serious. Peter didn't say another word. "It's a classroom for children with a range of special needs, Jessica." Mr. Trupp continued, "Some of you are probably a little nervous or even scared. That's why you'll go in groups. I hope you'll feel different afterwards, too." I love this idea. Act 3, Scene 2. My group consisted of Anna and Jeffrey. I still hadn't quite figured Jeffrey out. On the other hand, I'd been eating lunch with Anna ever since being ostracized from Alexia and her clan. Danielle was back in, I was out. But I didn't want back in. I much preferred my time with Anna. She's quiet, but she's a lot smarter than everyone thinks. She's the only girl smart enough to stay out of Alexia's nonsense. Her mom's advice, she told me. We haven't talked about her mom or any of the stuff I learned from Danielle, and I haven't told her anything about me either. For now, we've kept our secrets, and that's okay. I like Anna. She'd make a great friend to a character in a book or in one of Dad's plays. I know she's going to be a great friend of mine. We were very quiet on our first trip downstairs. Not one of us uttered a single sound. My hands longed to hold the book, but I hadn't brought one, so I bit at my fingernails and cuticles instead. It's funny how when you're anxious to get somewhere, the journey seems to take forever, and when you're not too anxious, the journey is over in no time. My journey from California lasted about as long as a ride on the Viper roller coaster, and our journey to the collaborative classroom took no time at all either. When we arrived, it was clear the teacher was expecting us. "Hi guys," she said. "Welcome to our collaborative classroom. I'm Miss Kelsey." We introduced ourselves and then she led us inside. "This is Joey." Miss Kelsey pointed to a little boy with boogers all over his face. "Can you say hi to our friends, Joey?" Miss Kelsey asked. Joey waved in our direction. A gigantic smile stretched across his face. "And this is James over here," Miss Kelsey said, pointing to a different boy. James looked pretty normal to me. He didn't say hi to us, though. He didn't even look at us. "This is Emily over here." The little girl Miss Kelsey pointed to was very cute. She had drool all over her face and hands and arms, and she moaned a lot. A different teacher used sign language as she tried to communicate with Emily. The teacher struggled to maintain eye contact with her. She told Emily to say hi. "That's Miss Warner helping Emily right now." Emily tried to say hi to us, but I could tell she wasn't particularly good at talking. There were a few other children in the room, and Miss Kelsey eventually introduced us to all of them. I became distracted at this point because Jeffrey had walked over to Joey and started playing the game Memory with him. I couldn't believe it. I heard him say, "That's a great job, Joey. You're really smart." And Joey smiled. Anna and I were on our way out with Miss Kelsey and James and Emily to help them do their jobs. Before we left the room, I saw Joey giving Jeffrey a big hug. Act 3, Scene 3. Jobs turned out to be sorting the plastic forks, spoons, straws, and napkins for the cafeteria. Miss Kelsey poured the utensils on the table, and James said, 712. I looked at Anna, puzzled. "What do you mean, James?" I asked. 712, he said again, looking down at the table. "Does he always say 712, I asked. I figured he was yelling out random numbers. "No, James is telling us that there are 712 utensils on the table," Miss Kelsey said. 712 utensils on the table, James repeated, and this time looking at Anna and me and swaying a little as he stood. "Great job, James." Miss Kelsey sounded so excited. You looked at your friends when you said that." "Miss Kelsey, do you mean James is right?" Anna asked. "Are there really 712? Is it the same amount every day or something?" "Well, I haven't actually counted them to double check. Check. And no, it's not always 712, but James has never been wrong before, Miss Kelsey said. Anna and I exchanged astonished looks. I was confused. James had done this amazing counting, but Miss Kelsey seemed more excited that he had looked at me. I wanted to ask questions, but decided to wait. I didn't know if asking was appropriate. We finished up the jobs and walked back to get Jeffrey. Act 3, Scene 4. Jeffrey was still playing with Joey, as well as a couple other kids. He was helping them paint. Jeffrey, I said. He looked up. We have to go back now. Oh, okay. His shoulders slumped. He turned to the kids. I've got to go, guys. I'll be back soon. Then it was hug time again. We thanked Miss Kelsey and headed back upstairs. We didn't talk on the way through the halls. I think we each had too many thoughts in our brains. By the time we reached our classroom, Jeffrey was grumpy Jeffrey again. Our very own Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, I thought. That's interesting. I wonder, that says a lot about Jeffrey. Let's see. This next chapter is on Jeffrey, and then we're going to stop. Peter called them retards, and Alexia laughed, like it was funny or something. I should have just punched them then. It's a good thing they weren't in my group. I went downstairs with Jessica and Anna. They seemed a little scared, but I didn't say anything. We walked into Mrs. Kelsey's class and met the kids. They were great. Joey was full of love. All he wanted to do was play and hug me. He didn't get upset about anything, not even winning or losing when we played games. James was reading his big books when we walked in. I could tell he was real smart. I figured he was autistic right away because he didn't look at us or say a word. And little Emily was so cute. She needed lots of help, but who wouldn't want to help her? They reminded me of Michael. Just like the collaborative kids, Michael had the power to make you feel really good whenever you were with him. Love poured from him. I wonder who Michael is, because there's obviously a connection there. I've never told anyone about Michael and wasn't gonna, but Jessica knew something was up. She's pretty smart. She notices things. After we visited the collaborative classroom a few times, she came up to me at recess one day. I was sitting at the edge of the field, out where no one else ever comes. I was looking through my football cards, putting them in piles by position. You have a secret, don't you, Jeffrey? She said to me as she sat down. What are you talking about? I said. Who do you know with special needs? I kept sorting my cards. I tried to ignore her. I wasn't going to tell her anything. Then she moved closer. I've got a secret no one knows about, too. No one, not anyone in the school, she said. So why would you tell me? I asked, looking at her this time. I was reading this book, Ida B., and in it the girl finally talks a little about her secret, and it helps her out. You're always reading, I said. The characters help me understand and think about things, she said. They help me know what to do. QBs. Where was that pile? Is that why you handle Alexia differently than any of the other girls? I said. I guess so. Well, you can tell me your secret. I'm listening. Can I look at some of those cards while I talk? She reached for my running back pile. No. I pushed her hand away. Nobody ever touches my cards. She was quiet. I might have scared her a little. Sorry, I said. I'll just hold my book then. She was quiet for a minute. I waited, and she took a big breath. My dad didn't come to Connecticut with us, she said. He directs plays and found a girlfriend at his work, a beautiful actress from one of his productions. My mom decided we needed to get away from California and my father. So here we are. I kept sorting my cards, but I was listening, and Jessica knew I was. After a few seconds, she kept talking. She had more to get off her chest. I didn't want to come, but my mom told me I had no choice. Boy, was I ever angry with her. Angry like I've never been before. I figured my dad was dumping her, not me. So why did I have to leave too? Silly? Right. I could never leave without my mom. I stayed busy with my cards because I didn't know what else to do. I didn't want to ruin it for Jessica. She had a lot to tell, so I stayed quiet. What I didn't know at the time was that my dad wasn't only dumping my mom, he was dumping me too. The last time I talked to him was back in the beginning of the school year. He phoned to talk to me, but he hasn't called since. I knew what it was like to have a parent that didn't call too. I had too, but I didn't know what to say, so I said nothing. Then recess ended. So we haven't found out anything about Jeffrey yet, but obviously Michael is a character that Jeffrey knows pretty well, and I find it interesting that Jessica and Jeffrey have now hopefully end up sharing both of their secrets. So we'll have to see what ends up happening. All right. Bye, guys.